Tesla is an energy company. We want to talk about this thesis today a little bit more explicit. I think it's been talked about on this podcast many times. It's our largest position. That's why we talk so much about Tesla. And the fact that Tesla is an energy company is certainly nothing new. But we just want to explicitly put it out there why we think this is a pivotal moment in the history of Tesla and in the history of also of the world. I mean, this is the big deal. This is, and like many times before in history, bad things actually lead to good things, such as Vladimir Putin attacking the Ukraine, which is a terrible thing, but it has a good positive spin on it, which is that we are reminded that we cannot rely on the current energy infrastructure and that we need to find solutions to de-Russianize the global energy infrastructure, and Tesla is at the forefront of this development. This is the Not Even Wrong podcast. It's March 12, 2022. This is Krim Delco. Since the last update, we are down roughly 6%. For the year, we're down 31%. The market is down 12.4%. We're underperforming by 18.6%. This is one of the largest drawdowns we ever had in terms of percent and definitely in dollars. The reason we have this large drawdown is for three reasons. One is we have a situation, of course, in the Ukraine, which is weighing on stocks. We have an interest rate situation in the US where we have inflationary risks and a push towards higher interest rates. And third, we also have an attack towards companies like ARK Invest and other growth type investors who have been touting their services and their research and all of that in the last couple of years, and they're now being attacked by short sellers or just generally by the market. Nothing evil here, it's just the way the markets work. Those are the three main reasons why we have a drawdown. And the reason I'm pointing this out is that actually fundamentally Tesla is in probably the best position they've ever been. The company is delivering on every front. They're able to make cars that people want. They're good cars. The demand is very strong. They have proof of concept when it comes to the Megapack and the Powerwall. They're struggling a little bit on the solar side, but even that is going to be taken care of by this new situation. And the new situation is the following. Until this year, Tesla has been considered sort of a nice to have company. Yeah, it's a nice idea to decarbonize energy, to go solar, Powerwall, transportation, electricity, all of that. It's fine. But we have an existing infrastructure with oil and gas and ICE cars and all of that. And that's going to take a long time to replace. And if you look at the latest studies and estimates, people continuously estimate something like 20% market share of EVs by 2030 and so on and so forth. Now, we've always thought that these estimates are they're wrong because simply you can't extrapolate in a situation like that. This is a nonlinear situation. The reason it's nonlinear is because we are rearranging the global energy infrastructure in a nutshell. And when you rearrange things, all kinds of new things happen. It's not linear. By definition, if I rearrange, an assembly of cells in a Petri glass dish, all kinds of new chemical reactions will happen. If I rearrange people, if I take Chinese people and put them together with Russians and then mix them up with Italians, that's going to have very different nonlinear situations than if I do the same thing, let's say, and don't mix them, or I put Mongolians instead of Russians or whatever. It's going to have massive impact. So rearranging things usually has, I mean, this is just basically physics and chemistry. Now, if you extrapolate this to the large scale energy infrastructure of the world, we rearrange. What are we rearranging? So let's look at pre-Ukraine war, the pre-Ukraine war. So pre-2022, we have a situation in the world where we pump for oil and gas and we fuel our transportation infrastructure and our electricity demand with oil and gas. More or less, this is what's going on. We have some substitutes like nuclear, we have renewables, we have coal. But this is in general what we do for transport and for electricity. There's a company called Tesla, founded in the early 2000s, that has a mission to decarbonize energy. The actual mission is to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy. But what that really means is decarbonizing the energy infrastructure. That's what Tesla wants to do. And today, now post Russia invading the Ukraine, we have a situation where the world doesn't want to do business with Russia anymore. So we have to rearrange the global energy infrastructure. And the short-term solution for that is to find other sources of oil and gas other than Russia. And that's fine. It's going to happen. To some extent, also higher prices will take care of some of the demand. So we will, for sure, find some sort of equilibrium. That's almost by definition. That's not even a question. I think the question, of course, is what kind of equilibrium do we want? And since we have an alternative now, and Tesla is offering an alternative, it is very likely that a lot of people will, instead of choosing a status quo where we just fix, we do patchwork. So we have, let's say, I'm driving a pickup truck and I'm spending $100 a day on gasoline. Now I'm going to spend $200 a day on gasoline, and I'm just going to spend less money somewhere else and just continue with my life. This will be patchwork. The same at the country scale. Germany doesn't buy nat gas anymore from Russia. They buy it from somewhere else. They pay 3 times the price. They build massive liquefied natural gas infrastructures and all that stuff. Whatever the patchwork may be, this is, of course, what the short-term solution looks like for many people or in many people's heads. But we have an alternative here, and the alternative is Tesla, and Tesla is creeping into the marketplace in many ways, actually, not just most obviously it's creeping into the marketplace through the demand for electric cars, which this week we've already had news outlets talking about this, particularly in California. The demand is surging. But what is going on here is that we have this tipping point now where even people who were on the fence, or people who weren't sure, or well, I just spoke with my mother, for example, and she was a bit of a critic, not a critic, but just generally one of those people that was skeptical. I think it's just the way it is, and that's a whole other podcast series, why people would be skeptical about Elon Musk. But anyway, she was one of those people that showed skepticism, that showed, well, how should I say, that showed, a little bit of mistrust, let's say, if that's the right word, and wasn't really saying, this whole thing with switching from oil and gas to electricity, what is it really going to do? How's the energy infrastructure going to look like? Can I really drive an electric car? All these things now are kind of thrown overboard. And her real question is, listen, how much would it cost me to drive 300 kilometers with an electric car? And the answer is it will cost you about a fifth of what you're paying now on the gas station. And that is a language that everybody understands. In other words, pricing, economics, market prices, demand and supply, all these things are kicking in. And that's what's going on right now with Tesla. The demand for electric cars is surging. The demand for power walls is surging. The demand for solar is surging. Because if you live in California now and you have a house and you build a new house, spending $30,000, $50,000 on top of the ridiculous amount you're paying anyway for your house, for a rooftop, and then having the battery and the car and all that, it just makes sense. It's economically advisable. This is not Tesla has never been driven by ideology, maybe in the beginning, but the actual pricing of the Tesla stock in the stock market, at least since we started investing in Tesla in the early teens, it has never been ideology, because the market value of Tesla has always been pricing in something a lot more than just ideology. And right now, the market value of Tesla is not pricing it. Actually, now it's almost the reverse, where people are kind of hanging on to it for ideology. Oh, it's a good brand, it's a good car, but growth stocks are taking a hit and blah, blah, blah. When in fact, now the fundamentals, actually right now, the fundamentals are as strong as they've ever been because of all this shift. Thanks to Vladimir Putin, in other words. Now the fundamentals are showing up in even more extreme forces than before. Now, to caveat all of this, the risk with Tesla has always been, and I'm quoting I think his name was Jeff Evanston, the former IR of Tesla, a person we worked with very closely when we started investing. And he said something, and that's the obvious thing. Tesla is a very simple investment. He said, look, execution is the main risk with Tesla. End of story. Like, you don't have demand risk, market risk, acceptance risk, all that kind of stuff. You don't have that risk because it's there. Tesla will succeed in the marketplace, but can they deliver? In other words, are they going to be able to build all these cars that are demanded at scale? Are they going to be able to build a service network at scale? And so on and so forth. That's the question. That still remains the question. And I am curious to see about the growth rate of Tesla this year and next year, and if they will change their narrative to higher than 50%, because they can. Quite frankly, you can grow a lot more than 50% in this environment, and it's going to last for a while. And I was thinking about this in the last couple of days, in a sense that I was thinking to myself, we've had this huge reversal of the COVID companies. So the companies that did extremely well under COVID, particularly, let's say, a company like Asana, which is a sort of a productivity software type company, Zoom, video communications, all these companies that were necessary in the sort of remote work type world, people were scrambling to build technology around remote work solutions. So all these stocks are crashing down to earth. They're not zero. These are good companies. It's just there has been a huge surge in demand, a huge sort of ideological, well, this is going to be the future, all that, blah, blah, blah. And now it's coming back to, well, maybe there was just a lot of buying in the last 2 years, and now people are buying less. And I was thinking to myself, is the same thing going to happen to Tesla? Did we have a surge in demand for whatever reason? For example, you could say Tesla was kind of a COVID stock also because people stopped traveling, and they started doing more road trips and all that stuff. And the power of Tesla showed through that. Now, there's some of that. I think people will maybe... I just heard one of my friends from Europe. They flew to Miami or Florida to have some fun there with friends. I mean, this wouldn't have happened a year or two ago. They probably would have done a road trip in Europe, wherever they live. So there's some of that happening. But I think actually with Tesla, it's the other way around. But you had a sort of a calcification, or it made it even stronger because you had these 2 years of road tripping around California or the East Coast, wherever you live, and you saw the power of Tesla. How, let's say, we went to Utah for skiing, and we spent, I think, $30 on electricity back and forth. There's a lot of free charging on the way and all that, so you would spend a lot more if you had to supercharge all the time. But anyway, the point here is being that you can save a lot of money and have a great experience while doing so. So all these things galvanize people around the brand. And now we have this whole rearrangement of the global energy infrastructure situation because of the war in the Ukraine, which is propelling even more demand for electric cars and solar and batteries. And this leads me to the conclusion here. And the conclusion is, like I started, Tesla is an energy company. And for a lot of people, this has been academic. Yeah, it's an energy company, but they're selling cars. Let's see how many cars they can sell. And this is how the stock trades. The same way you might say that Apple is a digital experience company. In the end, they're selling iPhones. Apple is an iPhone company. Well, yes and no, because they wouldn't be selling this many iPhones if they really were just an iPhone company. But if you include the digital experience part, then you can explain why Apple's sales are continuously growing, because the digital experience ain't going anywhere. And it's actually getting even stronger, and it's galvanizing and all that stuff. And with Tesla, it's very similar. Tesla is an energy company. We have a problem with energy right now. We need to de-Russianize the global energy infrastructure. And Russia is actually, Tesla is at the forefront of de-Russianizing the global energy infrastructure. And this is why we believe that fundamentally, right now, Tesla is probably in the best place it's ever been. And given that the selling of the stock in the last couple of months, certainly this also offers a huge buying opportunity. Now, this is not investment advice. Please do your own research. This is our opinion. The purpose of this podcast is to give people a sense of what it feels like to run a hedge fund. And we go through this all the time, every day. We think about our positions and we try to justify why we're invested. We, of course, want to try to account for all the things, the bias, the anchoring, all these things that Mr. Kahneman told us we are exposed to, and we are exposed to, and we know we are exposed to. But sometimes you just follow with physics and with the law of economics. You know, when things are expensive, i.e., oil and gas are expensive because of Russia, and alternatives are more advantageous, i.e., having a solar roof and a battery and an electric car named Tesla with all the other perks that come with it, the software, the connectivity, the experience, all these other things together just lead towards one direction, which is that Tesla will grow very, very strongly and very profitably in the next couple of years. And that sets the company up for a very good performance, both on the corporate side and also on the stock market side. Thank you.